So if you want to go. You can go to the next slide. All right. So we have 3 asks that we like to just kind of provide to you all up front. And so the first one here is everyone who is invited to these virtual roadshows, we would like you to consider how you can engage and collaborate with ICATT. So whatever that looks like, whatever you bring to the table, whatever you see we're doing that you're excited about, we want to partner with you. The second is consider referring ICATT to potential clients or to other teaming partners. So if you know anyone else who you feel would make sense for us to speak with, or you would like to partner with us and someone else, we absolutely welcome that. And then finally, as we'll get to in just a second, ICATT is a company who refers talent. So we love to recruit. We also are always developing talent within ICATT. People come here, they gain skills, and then they go off and do great things. So we're always looking for great people in whatever shape or form that looks like. And today, when we'll be talking about the ICATT Virtual Career Academy, that's another great opportunity where you can refer candidates who might be interested in gaining skills to come and learn from us. Next slide, please. So this slide is an overview of ICATT, and depending on how long you've known ICATT, you may see that our name has changed. So we are now called ICATT Professional Services, and we still go by ICATT. So that's perfectly fine as a nickname. Our website is icatt.net, not icatt.com. And also ICATT is a social enterprise. So this is fairly new. We are a for-profit company, but we are also in the business of nonprofit in any way that we can do good and do well. Doing good means that we want to make an impact, and doing well means that we still make money in the process. And finally, something I want to highlight is that ICATT is a small business. So we have that designation from the Small Business Administration. We are a certified minority business enterprise, and that comes from the National Minority Supplier Development Council. Next slide. Okay, great, thank you. So this is our ICATT Power page. And so we like to share with you our vision, our statement of purpose, our mission, and our services. So ICATT's vision is making your people and data greater. ICATT's statement of purpose is that ICATT is a social enterprise with the purpose of creating jobs in our community by enhancing employability and strengthening job creators. Our mission is to be your partner for professional development, talent sourcing, data analytics, and societal impact. So along with that, our services fall into the areas of professional development, and our Career Academy is part of that, outsourcing, staffing and recruitment, applied data analytics, and social enterprise. Next slide. Yeah, thank you. So today I'm really excited to tell you a little bit more about our ICATT Virtual Career Academy. And the Career Academy really focuses on preparing people for career through 2 main areas. The first one is credentialed training, and the second one is employability enhancement. So I'm going to go into a little bit more depth on both of those. So a little bit of background on our target audience for the ICATT Virtual Career Academy. So ICATT prides itself on reaching out and helping those who face the greatest barriers to employment. So we are reaching out to anyone who is unemployed or underemployed and is facing barriers in areas such as these you see here. So at-risk youth, communities with lower socioeconomic status, recent immigrant and refugee groups, people with disabilities or other mental or medical conditions, formerly incarcerated individuals, and recently laid off or displaced workers. In fact, we have one person who is currently attending our Virtual Career Academy who really shared with us that thought that sometimes being laid off from a position after something like 10 to 15 years can be very disorienting and can feel almost like a loss, where when you're not in that realm of job search, what does that landscape even look like? And so that's an example of someone who is facing a barrier, but that barrier may be very unique to their industry and to their experience. So we'll talk a little bit more about how we really individualize the experience for our small cohorts. Go to the next slide, please. So we would like to highlight for you today the following 4 signature programs. And we are highlighting these because they are completely self-paced, online, virtual, and that means they're available anytime, anywhere. And so going back to that idea of reaching out to those with the greatest barriers, this is an opportunity for it to be flexible. And when Ramya speaks in just a second about employability enhancements, that's where the coaching comes alongside to support that person as they endeavor to take on these courses that are traditionally self-paced. So CompTIA A+ has to do with help desk support. CompTIA Network Plus focuses on network administration. CompTIA Security Plus focuses on security analysts. And then our Agile Instructional Design Practitioner focuses on preparing instructional designers and e-learning developers. And that one really is a unique program within ICATT. I'm a big proponent of it, of course, because it's part of everything I do. But as a program manager here at ICATT, I draw upon the talent who comes to us and partakes of this course because they become potential employees, or contractors for me to draw from for my projects. So it's really a unique experience because not only are they learning how to do instructional design, but they're immediately being given the opportunity to demonstrate their skills and even work on client projects depending on their readiness and our need. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Ramya, and she's going to tell you a little bit about the International Circle as well as our employability enhancements.
Thank you, Kimberly. So before I get into the employability enhancement activities, I just wanted to talk, we wanted to talk about this new initiative called International Circle. So International Circle is a learning platform to build proficiency in English, technology, and social enterprise. The platform is available to individuals and community groups to improve quality of life and to achieve peaceful coexistence in our global community with one person and one community at a time. The platform is free, adaptable, and interactive. It is also hands-on, self-paced, online, virtual, and available on demand. So let's talk about the Employability Enhancement Initiative. So this initiative is to prepare the future workforce for employment, particularly with virtual work opportunities outside the geographical area of their residence. The Enhancing Employability Initiative at ICATT is a comprehensive set of activities that offers tremendous opportunities to career seekers, but more importantly, it gives career seekers a professional edge over their competitors. So on this slide, you can see an overview of all that the Enhancing Employability Initiative offers, which I will elaborate on shortly. But before we get into that, I wanted to share something that is key to the initiative and to our approach. So here at the ICATT Virtual Career Academy, we focus on individuals. We use the word enhance because that is our purpose. We're not here to tell career seekers what they are lacking. Rather, we leverage the individual skills and talents and find pathways to enhance them. We individualize our approach and provide tailored support to career seekers with the greatest barriers to make them more attractive to employers in a competitive workforce environment. That being said, let's talk about the key components of our academy. One of the services we provide is certification exam prep. We assign cohort study groups that meet weekly for exam prep. This approach has several benefits. One, participants can follow a structured approach and benefit from each other's knowledge and insights. Two, this approach actually reduces test anxiety, and according to a study, it actually leads to better learning and retention of information. And also, another benefit is that it provides crucial experience. We all know how important experience is, and it provides that opportunity in a safe environment for collaboration and teamwork to help prepare for entering the workforce. Our most successful service we provide is portfolio development and coaching. We consider it one of our most important coaching programs. So why portfolio development? Well, professional portfolios are becoming so beneficial to gaining employment. An online portfolio sets candidates apart and allows employers to gain a comprehensive perspective about the individual. Portfolios allow candidates to craft their own professional narrative, and by showing a consistent catalog of their past works, candidates actually are able to show their credibility and showcase their skills. This allows candidates with high barriers to employment to reshape their image. Additionally, the idea is for candidates to get to know themselves and, more importantly, realize what they have to offer to employers. Studies have actually shown that creating a personal portfolio can be crucial for self-assessment and self-evaluation, which candidates entering the workforce always need. So to facilitate the development of professional portfolios, we have weekly meetings with cohorts of no more than 5 participants that show and tell our highly qualified coaches about their portfolios, resumes, and sample works. Then they receive feedback, suggestions, and advice, and make continuous enhancements to their work until they can secure a job. The ICATT Virtual Career Academy also offers opportunities for informational interviews. Brookings Institution has actually said that there is an opportunity gap in the workforce affecting people with high barriers to employment. Informational interviews can help close that gap. They also have several other benefits. They help candidates build confidence for future interviews and also gain a crucial understanding of the relevant industry. It provides access to critical information regarding career paths and opportunities and insider tips for career advancement. And it starts the networking process for candidates. And we all know how important networking ends up being in the search for employment. Studies also show that informational interviews provide a significant competitive edge. One study found that while 1 out of every 200 resumes results in a job offer, 1 out of every 12 informational interviews results in a job offer. Here at ICATT, we invest our resources into professionalism development and workforce preparation. Professionalism development builds soft skills ranging from emotional intelligence to cultural competence to leadership development. As part of workforce preparation, we offer weekly career coaching sessions available for all participants that we work with and train. Our career coaches are trainers, practitioners, and subject and industry experts who work in both group and one-on-one settings with candidates on portfolio development, resume reviews, informational interviews, and so on. Additionally, coaches can actually direct candidates towards other training programs that we may have, workshops, resources, and smaller assignments to build professional skills. In essence, ICATT has a unique capacity to help career seekers with high barriers by meeting them where they are and enhancing their talents and skills through individualized coaching, apprenticeship opportunities, portfolio resume and work sample development, and low barrier training opportunities. So ICATT is targeting 12 states for the initial launch of the ICATT Virtual Career Academy. This is on the basis of where we actually currently do business, where we have relationships, and where we have affiliated talents. We're seeking to be accepted as an approved training provider by workforce agencies of all these targeted states. As an approved training provider, workforce agencies can assign career seekers with the greatest barriers with tuition fee. And we will be seeking to be assigned a cohort of 5 candidates. So these are a couple of examples where we've done similar things to this. With Alexandria Workforce Agency, we actually had a weekly portfolio development meeting. And this was essentially what I just talked about, but it was with people with very high barriers to employment. And Kimberly, did you want to add something about the Kansas City workforce?
Sure. So just an example of, again, assisting job creators and contributing toward enhancing employability. We recently worked with Kansas City Mid-America Regional Council, and were tasked with creating case manager training to help people in the Kansas City area, especially those affected by COVID-19, to improve their readiness for obtaining jobs. And so it's just another example of ICATT's mission and the type of work we are doing with our virtual career academy. We were partnering with Mark to do that over in Kansas City as well. And so we love to just give you an idea, going back to those 3 asks, we love to just give you an idea of what ICATT has done, is doing, and the areas that we serve, so that you can see opportunities, anything that lines up with what you're doing or what others are doing. So in terms of instructional design and content development, that's definitely a large piece of what we do here at ICATT, and you can see some of the organizations that we have worked with there. And it's certainly not limited to those, but just a few examples under each of these. E-learning courseware development, talent sourcing, and data analytics. On the next slide, we have emerging technologies training, soft skills and leadership training, and professional development. And with that, I'll hand it back to Ramya.
Great. So in these next couple of slides, I will be talking about our journey, ICATT's journey towards smart learning. So smart devices and intelligent technologies are enabling smart learning environments, and smart learning environments promote the development of personalized learning and adaptive learning and facilitate the fusion of the two. So we are trying essentially to create smart learning environments. And smart learning is becoming more and more popular. It has penetrated every market around the world. The idea of using AI in the learning space is to be able to adapt and interact with our learners, even in a self-paced learning environment. So we want to develop adaptive learning in 3 primary areas. Content. Content involves adjusting to the knowledge level of the student or learner. So we can do this with pre-assessments, use those to adjust and deliver different lessons to that learner. And for instance, different learners are going to come in with different knowledge levels. Someone with no background knowledge is going to have a completely different experience than someone who has intermediate knowledge. So the idea here is to use smart learning to adapt the content to each learner. Next is pacing. So learners have different paces. They learn in different ways and at different speeds. So we're on a journey to find out how we can customize pacing and adapt the pacing towards learners. So the next one is ambiance. So ambiance has a lot of different applications. Things that are as simple as color and branding, the presentation of a course. These can all be altered in order to adapt to the audience and to enhance their experience. With that, Kimberly, why don't you go ahead?
Thanks, Ramya. So as we're kind of coming to a close here, we just like to share a little bit more about who we are as ICATT. These are our strengths. So co-creation in the sense that we partner with clients and business owners. We love to come alongside and help make the vision a reality. And we can use our talents and our, I guess I would say talents in two ways. We have access to an amazing network of contractors and individuals with skills that they can bring to support. We also have ideas and methods that we have proven over the years that we can bring alongside, but we are also flexible. So in terms of flexibility and creativity, we are able to adapt to the needs of our clients, of our partners, the different folks that we work with. And then in terms of flawless execution, we take pride in what we do. So we are committed to excellence. We're also committed to a positive experience. I think something that I'm always pleasantly surprised by on these Friday calls, because we have all sorts of different people who attend the virtual roadshows, and I almost always hear the same thing. People say they've had a relationship with Gabe for a long time. Their experience with the people at ICATT has been very positive, because I would say I have witnessed that positive attitude and that desire to serve really comes through what we do at ICATT. And Gabe, as the leader of that, I think his character really speaks to that as well. So that's a big part of our culture here. And if we go back to our 3 asks, all of these things we hope have kind of given you some ideas, some inspiration. Even as Ramya was talking about the smart learning, I was thinking one of these days we might have someone on this call who can say, I'm doing that, or I found an app that does that well, and here's some more about it. Any ideas, any references, referrals are welcome. So with that, I would like to open the floor for questions, any observations. We love to hear feedback if there was anything that was unclear, anything that really resonated with you, as well as if you have ideas for referrals or ways that you would like to partner with us. The floor is open for any and all comments. Thank you.
Hi, Kimberly and Ramya. That was an excellent presentation. Thank you for all that great information. I do have a question, and it's in reference, I believe you used the term underemployed a few slides back. And I was wondering, does that imply an individual who's overqualified for position? In other words, they may just be working in a position and they have more skills than what the position offers. Or was it implying that underrepresented groups are not landing professional jobs, although they qualify for the position? So my question, I guess to be a little more specific, what exactly does unemployed mean in your context?
Wow, that's a great question, Mark. In fact, I'm trying to write down the 2 examples you gave, because I really liked to think about it from those 2 different angles. I'll share as I'm processing what you said, but when we were working with Mid-America Regional Council, for example, when they used that word, it primarily referred to people who are working minimum wage jobs and might be working a job because that's the immediate need right now. Is I have to pay the bills and I can't afford the time that it takes to retrain or to gain a certification to get a better job. So they're not unemployed, but they're underemployed because they have potential that isn't being realized due to time restraints, budget constraints, things like that. But that being said, I really like what you pointed out, and I think that it applies. The idea that someone could be overqualified in the job that they're in, and maybe they don't know how to market their skills. I think that really goes into the story that Ramya shares about working with a woman who didn't know how to describe her data work on her resume. And then your other example as well, underrepresented groups. Can you say a little bit? I want to make sure I get to write that down, actually, how you said that.
Sure, underrepresented groups who are not landing professional jobs, although they qualify for the position. In other words, they may have the credentials, but because, you know, with the being part of the underrepresented group, that they're not hired. For example, and I'm just throwing this out there, you know, someone that may have a master's degree in one area, but may not get the job, you know, for reasons other than not being qualified. And that's what I'm referring to. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. In fact, Ramya, do you want to speak to that a little bit? Because I think what Mark's describing with the underrepresented is really what we're talking about when we say people with the greatest barriers, especially when it comes to culture and, you know, recent immigrants, refugees, and you've had some experience working with those populations.
Right, right. So essentially these barriers, sometimes they can even be invisible, but these barriers are generally, they can be language barriers, they can be cultural barriers. And, you know, a lot of times you see people who are incredibly capable, who have all the skills they need, but for whatever reason, they have a very hard time finding a job. And, you know, you just have to look deeper and you realize that this person isn't representing the whole picture. They're not representing themselves in a way that makes them employable. For instance, I was working with this woman who essentially she wrote down on her resume that she was entering numbers into a spreadsheet. That was one of her, you know, descriptions for what she did. I had to essentially sit her down and say, listen, you work in database management. That's what you do. You don't just type numbers, you know. And this is an immigrant woman, a refugee, and a lot of times culturally you see women, they're not used to really, and you can see this with men too across cultures, they're not very used to being their own cheerleader. They're not very used to being their own, to essentially tooting their own horn. They're not very good at it because they, you know, they don't have any experience with it. And a lot of times that's not good for a potential employer, because the employer wants to know just how great you are. And that's why, you know, with everything we talked about, we're big proponents of self-assessments, knowing exactly how much you're worth, because that's why we believe in enhancing. We want people to know exactly how talented they are, how much they have to offer, and enhance on that. So that would be my explanation for exactly what it is that we do when it comes to underrepresented people or underemployed people, because these people are highly qualified. It's just a matter of getting them there and giving them a pathway to there.
Great.
I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, yes, it did. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I had a question. Yeah, a couple of slides back, you had showed the different demographics that you reach out to, like, you know, people who are switching careers or who just got laid off, and there were people with disabilities and so forth. My question is, how do you reach out to these groups, and how do you pick like the person that you think, like, do they reach out to you or do you guys reach out to them? And basically, how do you pick who will go through your program?
That's a great question. You know, in some pieces, I would want Gabe here to speak to that, because I feel like Gabe is just a magnet for people in general. So I think we've been blessed to have a lot of kind of just natural referrals from person to person, word of mouth, I guess is what you would call that. But in terms of deciding who goes through the program, that's something that we are kind of refining in terms of process, because we really have no reason to say no unless someone is not committed. And when you want to measure, is this person truly committed to fulfilling this program? So far, that looks kind of like a written agreement to say, I'm committed. Other than that, you really only have to go on someone's word. But we have talked about creating some pre-assessments in order to gauge where someone is, if there are certain skills that they really need to be successful. For example, with instructional design, the ability to write well, or at least to learn to write, can be important because you are developing content. So things like that we are taking into consideration, and I think will be more kind of in terms of a set process will be in the near future. So we welcome ideas for that as well, if you know of things that have worked well for you, anyone as well.
Awesome, thank you. And I had another follow-up question. When we talked with Gabe and you, Ms. Kimberly, earlier, one of the big thesis of Gabe is that, changing one person at a time, changing one community at a time. So on that note, like so far, how many people have you passed through your courses, through your training programs?
So that's a good question as well. And in terms of our instructional design program, we have our first official cohort right now. And there are 4 people, as we said, we keep our cohorts to 5 maximum. So this cohort has 4 people right now. But I would consider myself a graduate of that program just in an earlier iteration. So it was a lot less structured and built out when I did it, but we have several instructional designers who currently do contract work with ICATT who were trained by ICATT. So the honest answer is, now that we are building this program out much more officially, we have those rosters, whereas we do have, I would say at least a few dozen people who have come and benefited from ICATT's employability enhancements and gotten jobs, but in a much more informal way, if that makes sense.
Yep, awesome. Yeah, it's always informal beginnings, and then you formalize the process, and then it's refined. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have questions or comments or feedback?
I just have one more, if you don't mind, please.
Of course.
I think you mentioned a societal program. What exactly is that? Is that something that's a value that's built into what ICATT does, or is that something that, the reason I'm asking is, like, for example, when you were explaining how some of these underrepresented groups may have difficulty understanding the culture from the West, is that what you're referring to, that there's something available where they go through some kind of cultural training just to, at least to familiar, so like, for example, how to market yourself and or in areas that's not a common thing? Is that what that's referring to?
Yes, you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what that was talking about.
So when we refer to the social enterprise, that kind of encompasses everything that ICATT does, but the branch of ICATT that particularly addresses that is the community career promoter. And I think Ramya can probably give a couple more examples than I can, but one I would share would be, we have 2 webinars every month that are specifically designed to inform and educate people on professional development topics, and those are completely free. They also end up being really great networking opportunities. And as Ramya mentioned with informational interviews, ICATT uses that network to help people establish relationships with those who can further their career and provide some of that coaching as well in that direction. So Ramya, I don't know if you wanted to share any other examples of what we do with the community career promoter.
No, you pretty much covered it all.
Oh, okay. More familiar than I thought then.
Absolutely. We run initiatives that in different ways are free and that benefit career seekers or career advancement seekers throughout.
Great, thank you.
Does anyone else have something to add?
Hi, this is Ephraim. I think it's very good and informative. Thank you, Kimberly and Ramya.
Thank you, Ephraim. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Ephraim.
All right, well, if we want to go to our thank you slide, just as a visual representation, we very much appreciate your time today and the questions. I have definitely taken some notes and appreciate hearing outside perspectives and ways to think about these things. So, the conversation doesn't have to end here. Actually, if Ramya, if you're able to go back to that first slide, just so they have our email addresses, you can reach out to Gabe, of course, but Ramya and myself as well. We are the leaders of the Career Academy. So we welcome any ideas that come to mind later or referrals for anything at all. We'd love to hear from you. So with that, I'll say again, thank you for being here and we hope you have a lovely weekend.
Okay, thank you very much. You two have a great weekend.
You too.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.